Well, hello all. Dr. Contrast here. I hope everything is in good shape with everybody. And again, I'm going to do a little fun here today with some material. But before I begin, hey, Ballistic, how are you? It's good to see you. Hey, hi, Doug. How's everything? Thanks very much for joining forces with the here's guys. I'm going to do a little study here today, taking a little bit of a jump ahead in time for the sake of time, and do a little bit of Ferrari evolution stuff. I think it would be kind of fun to just go through some process, and we spent some time on Monday going through a little lesson plan on basic perspective and the like, which was a lot of fun to go through. But I think today we're just going to turn around and I already prepared a series of little thumbnail sketches ahead here on some tone paper, and I just want to walk you through some technique stuff and maybe slow some things down a little bit, and take the time to explain some of the process we go through in this operation. So for this particular stream, just for interesting little intro here, the Ferrari history has really always been unique, a very leading edge, cutting edge materials and so forth. But I thought we'd go back in time and do a little study on the fact that one is like a 250 GTO, and then going into some of the on the 250 and 4 series, and just another abstract piece here to kind of move through some very interesting process here. But to take a look at, again, I think the most important thing, and let me start with this. When you look at a sketch, for example, let's look at this sketch. It's really animated, for example. A lot of things going on. I'm just kind of ramming through the whole thing and just kind of feeling my way through the shapes and the like. But it just kind of lays down a surface for me to work with. I'm not really worried about getting a lot of tune in and a lot of perfection and so forth. And that's one of the reasons for this stream today is to show us how to begin to use a sketch, strictly as a sketch, to kind of feel through things, develop certain forms, and begin to take advantage of what we see and begin to illustrate it clearly. So let me just kind of go through some things here, and I'm going to pick up a marker. We're going to do a little work today to show how pastel and the marker works. First of all, we're going to tone in some surfaces here. We're going to pick a spot here and just come up over the top of this, find a well, and nail that in. Just kind of very quickly, just going to zoom that in a little bit. Come up across the top of this thing, put a little bit of reflection into the cowl, windscreen itself, the hood surface, pardon me. Over the top of this, just a little bit of highlight across that spear, and just start to tone in surface. I notice on tone paper that marker goes down extremely dark, and that's okay because we'll begin to use that as an element to kind of rebuild the surface as we go through this thing. Let's go over the top of this and pick that into place. Over the top of that, there's some of the shadow and rearview mirrors up on top here. Just kind of blocking some shape in first here, gang. Hey, Shadow, how are you? Nice to see you here today, Doctor. We're just getting started. A little bit of block-in work, and the lesson for today in this stream is to just take a very lucid sketch like these that I'm showing you here, and begin to stain them. And I want to spend a little bit of time explaining how things work with, for example, putting a marker down and then working with pastel on top of that. Just going to build a series of shapes here first. Just going to walk through it again, tone it in, and notice when we start to work with this, how nice how that blends right back in. See how that soaks into the paper? It's fine. We're going to stain this. We're looking for patterns first. Just going to across here and just a little bit of the header into place. Run that through. A little more shadow in the rearview mirror. Just going to walk through this and now come underneath the belly pan here. And just a little bit of just a nice little spike up on top over here. Let's come back in on that fender line. Just going to get that little valley to read for us and just kind of roll that in. Looking shape, developing shape. Underneath the belly pan itself into that line. Now notice, there's a pattern starting right there. I'm just using the whole light source phenomenon to kind of pull this in together with some of the aspects that we're going to be dealing with here today. Let's come underneath the belly pan here. I'm just going to block this in, up and out. Come around the bend here. Pardon me as I move the paper around just a little bit here, folks. Just to stain this in. Get that to work. Now, let's go to high power stuff here just for a second. Let's switch gears. And let's come back in and say, all right, we're going to put a little bit of light source in this thing here. So here we go. Come back in. A little bit of graphics in the windscreen here. Let's kind of tone this back. Now we get some revelation going here. All of a sudden we get into some reflective quality here. Let's go back into this. Let's get the Get the tires in place. Let's ground this guy just a little bit. Some of the knockoffs in place. Pardon me, guys, I turn this paper around just a bit. Lock this in. Get the wheel flare. That fender in place. Got just a little bit of this backside tire, just enough of that. Ink that in. Get the roundness of the shape itself. Pardon me as I just kind of, I'm gonna have to move the pad around over here, folks, so pardon me. Let me stop right there. Look how that's starting to set up a pattern for me. Hope this is making sense for you guys. See that all right? It's making a real, hey, how you doing, Pixel? Good to see you. And that red, yes, fun stuff. We're just laying in a pattern here first. I'm just using this. Today's real stream is to kind of look through the looking glass a little bit to try to see how marker and pastel work together to give some real magical stuff on tone paper here. After last Monday's stream on getting the lesson plan, I thought we kind of put this in application and kind of turn around a little bit on us. Let's put a little more stream in this thing here, a little more content in this shadow side of the windscreen. We're going to build this shape very slowly by getting a lot of graphics in place here. No, let's do this. Let's get that front end in place. This is like a GT Evolution 250 GT. If we did it today as a retro piece, what it might look like. And again, let's get that grill in place, laying in the graphics. Put that in place. A little bit of sneak job in some of the lamp graphics. I'll come back to this in just a moment here. I think you can see where we're going with this thing, guys. It's all of a sudden coming off the page, hopefully a little bit. Really interesting. A wild pixel appears. Yeah, here he is. So let me kind of carry on here. Let's just kind of stain this in a little bit more. Let's get the famous GT little hood scoops here. Lay them in place. Now, there it is. There's a pretty solid, simple pattern here to get these things start to read in terms of graphics and how they go. Let's see, how we go here. Let's go back and let's take this down a notch. Let's get this fender away from the light source. Let's tone this in. Tone this in. A little deeper now in the burgundies, into the reds. Notice, to get a lot of shadow, I'm not going to use any black in the vehicle itself. That's a no-no. There is no such thing as a black on a reflective surface on any given color of the machine, unless it's a black car, obviously. And so in there, again, a little bit of this, get the hood graphics in place. Over the top of that little blister. Lay that in. And again, over the top of the hood here. I'm on screen here, sorry. Again, underneath. Look at all those patterns now. They're starting to pick up the form of the automobile. This making sense, gang? So far, so good. Now let's touch this just for a little bit and see if we can get some indication of where the highlights are coming from here. Just got to push this just a bit. I'm gonna get a hot spot here. I'm gonna get a hot spot right about in there. Put a little bit of this in place now. And little by little, what do you think, gang? Coming together? Put a hot spot on this side. Again, just a little bit of return on this bezel right through here. Let's put this in place. Let's catch a little bit of light source on these hood scoops, these insert pieces, a little bit of that. And let's kind of do this just for what it's worth here. Let's kind of give this a little bit of character. Let's kind of across here. Give the old GT racing surface back in its time. Now inside here, a little bit of the valley inside the lens. And again, same thing through here. A little bit of the valley coming inside the lens. Just enough to soften that whole area off there. Now we can come back in with a lighter gray and begin to tone this back a little bit more. A little bit of that into it. Same thing through here. Come around the bezel, come around the lamp, and just kind of tone that back just a little bit more. Now let's do this. Let's come right down the center of that guy, tone that in just a little bit more. That'll fade, not a problem. Right in through here. A little more animation, in the glass. Just kind of soften it off a little bit more. A little bit of tearline graphics in this thing. All of a sudden, what do you think, eh? Coming along all right? There we are, just kind of bringing it off the shape here. Yeah, here we go. All right, now let's try this now. Oftentimes, let's do this first. Pardon me for reaching all over the place here, gang. Let's put some high contrast in here now. Just as we go. A little more high contrast in this thing. Turn this upside down here. We'll get a little bit of graphics in this guy. We'll bring it right back to square one. Nice clean shadow underneath. And we'll bring it back here. And there you go. It's going to come together here, right, gang? Hopefully. All right, here we go. Oftentimes through the other, in some of these cases, they had very interesting I'm here for a second. Get that pillar into place here. And some fog lamps. There we go. We're going to kind of block it in just a little bit here. Now, so far so good. Sometimes you give it. Now, I'm going to sharpen a stick just a little bit here, gang. All that to do this. This is the fun part now, gang. All this we're going to come back and add a little bit of contrast here by doing the following. Pardon me as I turn around the bend here. We're going to get this lined up and show you how warm and cool works. Put a little sky tone in this thing and change the character of this whole thing here. It's got to come back in here and just warm this up. A little bit of sky. Then just a touch of hot spot over the top of that. It all softens that whole shape right off. Let's come back in here. Put a little bit of this in place. And then just kind of use our hands to kind of put a little bit of wash along the windscreen. All of a sudden, hopefully that thing's starting to look like it's coming off the page here. Just a classic old 250, that's all it is, gang. And then let's put a little bit of this over the top of that lens, kind of give some transparency to it, and run it right back into the actual form. This is more transparency into the form. And the same thing over here, just a little bit more transparency in the lens, and run it back into the shape. All of a sudden, what do you think, gang? Coming together all right? Just a simple little process here coming into play, and let's just do this. One of the nice things about, let's spend a little bit more, a couple more passes here. Let's get this guy to come up over the top of this. A little bit of hot spot here, and then here, and a little bit more indigo, and this sort of sky tone on top of that, and then inside here, a bit of sky tone in that lens, and that lens, and notice how we're blending all those things together to really make it come alive here, hopefully. So let's kind of get rid of some of this, my fingerprints and so forth. Now, there we go. Let's kind of stop right there for a moment. All of a sudden, look how soft that looks over the top of this guy right here. Let's add a little more sky in this thing. Let's add a little bit of warmth to it. Warm and cool. Let's do this. Let's go right back in. A little bit of that softness in it. Look how that just changes everything. That little color of sky. Now here's the best part about getting with the pastel to add to that. It's this. You come back in with an eraser, and you come right back to normal surface. And you get back to that basic red. Gives you a little more dimension. Again, same thing through here. A little bit more dimension. Let's take that in and kind of get rid of some of that pastel and go right back to basic paint color here by being a lot more animated. Look how that works. Let me get my brush here. We'll get this stuff out of the way. So we get a lot purer with that. Look how that functions. That is just a really neat approach of the whole process. Here we go. Come back in across here. Let's put a little bit of highlight across these guys. Whoops, as I lost. There it is. Just got to change gears here, guys. This one's kind of malfunctioning in me here, so pardon me as I walk back just for a moment. We'll get something fresh here to work with. No, so let's bring it across this, right across the brow here. A little more hot spot. Let's kind of take that in and kind of brush in a little bit more reflection. With an eraser, greatest drawing tool given to mankind. Look at that. You just get right back to the normal surface and it just brings it to life. Hots back in through here. Let's put a hot spot through that. how transparent that gets right in here. Look at that part. Oops, pardon me here. Look how that part right there, opens up. That reflection right in there. Now that becomes so much more transparent. Same thing on this side where the highlight is. Bring it right through the fender. Look how that changes the entire paradigm there. Just amazing how that begins to function. Let me get that back in square one here. What do you think, gang? So far, so good? Making sense? Am I going too quickly here? There you go. Looks enjoyed watching the process. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a great process indeed. No doubt. Pixel. And this, put a little bit of this. Got to put this into place. A little bit more hotspot. Kind of flare that off. More hotspot. Kind of flare that off. And then just a little bit more of this in the actual tire itself. Kind of give it more, a little more of a stronger hotspot in through here in the glass. Kind of brush that in. Same thing with that sky tones. Put that a little bit in that too. Just kind of mix it up just a bit more. And as I said before, the great tool of the times is an eraser. You come back in and you get right back to some really interesting reflection patterns across that glass. Look how that works. Just really a lot of fun, gang. And then on top of this, hey, how you doing? Let's do a little more time. Let's put a little more hotspot right over here. That's going to give me more of a glass content. There you go. A little more hotspot there. Super. There it is. Now, one thing they did too back in the day, the racing color. Let's put a bit of tone in this thing. Let's do this. Let's put this in place. Let's add that in. Rub that in place. And again, take that Weevil pad and just kind of soften it off a little bit. Some more hotspot where it begins to change into form. Reflect that right back into the lens. Hey, it's a cowboy. Thank you for subscribing, man. I really appreciate it. Really fun. Put a racing color on front here. And again, let's soften this off just a bit. Just not too much. Just enough just to change the tone of that nose cap there. Kind of give them more romance. So there we go. Let's see. Let's go. Hey, thanks very much. Really nicely done. Thank you so much, Ballistic. I appreciate you being a part of the process here. Very much so. Let's go back and get this thing cleaned up a little bit. Across that brow. It's got that highlight to work right through there and through there. Let's take it right across and put a little more animation on this side. Let's get back to color. Take it right through. And again, let's just do this. A little more hotspot right through here. And we blend that in. And for what it's worth, let's crown it with just a little bit of this. A little bit more drawing definition. Take that into play. Hot spot it there. And again, hot spot it here. Hitting highlight. Across that. Again, just a bit more color in here. A little bolder. Not too much. It's enough to take you across the brow. There's an interesting little study on what that 250 GT, in a sense, really begins to kind of pull itself together with a little more content. It's not a modern variation, but just enough to kind of give a little bit of a contemporary feel to it. Let's put a little more hotspot and drawing in this thing. And let's put a little bit of hotspot across the top of that too. Just kind of flare it off. There it is. That's a very quick little study on just putting some graphics down and how, and the whole reason for the stream today is to let us see how marker pastel becomes a really strong and powerful process in putting together the whole operation. It's not just a one-man or one operation in terms of filling all the blanks. It's a combination of materials that make it really begin to work here. Let's put a little more contrast in this thing too. More flare in this. And just a little indication of from Ponte. And there it is. Nice little study and putting it all together here. So let me sharpen the stick up a little bit here. So far, so good, gang. Let me do this. We'll just put a little bit more line work up on top here so we don't lose the image. Into the brow. Let me turn this over just a bit and roll that right in. And there it is. There's a nice little sky tone, warm, cool operation. Getting into some little Ferrari stuff here to let's kind of put this back here. Sorry about that. Let's put that into place. Let's put that into place and return that just enough. More graphics in the glass itself. And there it is. Little detailed work notes. A lot of emphasis here, letting that side go. We're just being a little bit more mysterious with it all the way through. And to see this lady from the side. Yeah. Next week we'll tune in on that one. How about that? We'll take it one shot at a time here. The other thing that's interesting too, sometimes you get in a situation where you go a little hotter with this thing. So we can go a little hotter with this, and let's just do this. Let's start with a nice little simple stream here. As I walk around with this thing, let's take that number 6 grade. Let's kind of walk in here and go another direction. Let's kind of come back in through this. Pardon me as I turn the page here just a bit. A little rear 3/4 study. It's not a GTO. This might be a little more of a contemporary package, like a California Revisited. I'll walk around the wheels for a reason here. I'm going to let that just kind of sit where it is. There it is. Spot that in. Come around that side of the wheel. Come back in and pick that rear end up a little bit. Take the shadow off the page. And again, a little bit of body crease. And again, the glass. Just toning it in. Some of the basic surfaces to work here. Combination today, working in how does marker and pastel begin to develop a real soft, almost airbrush quality and a realistic approach without really pushing a lot more than just gumming it up with a lot of media. It's keeping it nice and simple. Just kind of run that across the top there, just enough to give me a little bit of a header. So there's some graphic breakdown. Look how it begins to set up the entire form here. Let me do this. Let's come back in. Let's kind of use that marker to tone it a little bit here. Let's go back here. Let's get this piece in. A little bit of marker. Break it up just a touch. Take that right through. Into that. A little more body side here, just a touch in the body side here. Take it through and run it right into the horizon line. A little bit of graphic pattern in there. Run that into place. And across the shoulder. Into the header. Into the lamp pods. Look how this begins to set up a pattern of operation here. Let's kind of take this thing and just kind of go back in, drop it off, and come across that rear deck and just lose it. One more time, make it through, just keep staining it. Another approach, just very quickly. And that graphics is set up here. Notice, there's a pattern. Look at that pattern setting that thing up for me. Just really interesting. The rear splitter, yeah. So now let's come back and put a little bit of graphics to it. Let's come back in and say, all right, this is going to go like so. That's going to come in a little bit of little arrow scoop down below here, and one up on top. Let's put a little graphics in the glass here. Now, look at that. All of a sudden, that high contrast, one of the neat things about working in a tone paper such as this is the fact that you've got a middle ground here. This red surface becomes middle ground. And then everything on top of that you add to it. You're going to work nothing but highlight and shadow. You're going to go above and below, the shadow side and the highlight side. Let's do this. This is kind of fun too. Oftentimes, you just keep it nice and spooky. Pardon me here as I just walk through this a little bit here. And I'm just going to go back and do the following again. Sometimes we don't get really crafty with the wheels. Just kind of lay in some graphics here. Just put that in place. And let's put this in place. Just kind of dust it in. All of a sudden, run that through the base itself. Look how you're setting that up. Not getting a lot of fuss. Those wheels are already done. I'm just laying that in. Just there it is. I'm just laying it right in. I can go back in, put a little bit of that pastel and use that as a painting process and put more highlight or shadow in this thing by just dropping it on a little more, putting a little bit of circular pattern, rubbing it in. Sometimes it's just kind of nice to use the natural tools. And there it is there. Go back in through here. Just move that around. Look at the emotion in that. All of a sudden, that thing just starts to scream without doing an awful lot to it. It just moves much like this. Same set of circumstances. Lots of paper going through. Not filling it all in. Coming back in. And let's just do this. Pardon me as I switch gears here. Let's pick that number 4 gray up. That's not it. That's number 4 cool gray. Let's put that into place here. That's that little this rear tail extractor in place here. Get that in. Oh, it's real lucid. Going very quickly here. Just knocking shape in. That little lamp graphic. Putting a little secondary piece in through here. Letting that kind of fly through. Again, more graphics. Again, there it is. There it is there. A little bit of tone up on top here. Let's carry that through. And that'll dry. That'll dry like mad. Let's drive that color down one more time. Let's get this thing below the accent line here. Let's get this to really sing. Again, and through here, a little more shadow as it walks away from that light source. A little more in here. Let's take that right through in the form. Let's kind of kick this in. Let's bring it forward. Around the tire itself. Move that in. A little more stain. A little more animation in through here. Just taking it down by values. Letting it dry. Being patient with it and letting it just kind of walk through as we go over this thing. It begins to set up all the, I mean, look at that. Those surfaces are just about set. It's right there. There it is. So I'm come back in. Let's do this thing again. Let's come back in with that little pastel piece and do this. Let's get those wheels go a little further. A little deeper. A little deeper. And don't worry about it. If you go outside the lines, that's fine. That's what this guy's made for. You come back with the eraser, and there it is. Cleans it right up. If you want to go back and put a little bit of hot spot back into it, look at this. All of a sudden, look at the animation in that. You're starting to pull it all together, and it just starts to really work for you. Now, let's kind of get this out of the way here. Let's kind of pop this in place. Center line of wheel. Center line of wheel. Not a lot of animation. Maybe it's that, to that, to that, that, and that. Take it off the page. Much more spark. Bam, there she is. Starting to tell you where the story is. Again, same thing through here. Rim, 5-spoke. Again, let's get this shadow to kind of read for us here. High contrast. Pardon my silence here, gang. I'm just trying to get the surfaces to work for you here. I hope this is working for you. Look how simple that is. Now, if you want to put more push in this thing, that's fine. You can come back in again. Great little trick. Put more tone or shadow underneath that smoke. There it is. Lay that in. Lay that in. Just brush it. Brush it. Brush it. Brush it and brush it. There's some little bit of shadow more. Into that. There it is there. There it is there. There. And there. That might dictate a little bit more hot spot, but let's do that. If we need more hot spot in this thing, not a problem. Come back out here, pick up where the light source is its strongest, fire it out. Fire it out. 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 And out. Same thing here. Stronger light. Bring that through. Bring that through. Pop that out. Again, real lucid. I mean, these are just emotional studies and putting all of these forms together and just kind of getting a little bit of spark to it all. Really interesting stuff. Let's see, Starship Captain Nemo in the house. Hey, Starship, how are you? How you doing, Nemo? Really cool. It's the awesome skill of essential not drawing. Yeah, you got that right. It's just hope it works. So now we've got that basic pattern laid in there. Let's go back to that same process we were using earlier. Let's go back and use this pastel method to show you how it all begins to all come together. First of all, let's be real bold with this. Let's put a little bit of sky tone up front. Since the light source is up front, let's put a little bit of this contrast in place here. Put that really cool operation in place. Don't worry about that. You can kind of save that by doing the following. You come back in over the top of this guy, and you just all of a sudden dust in, and it takes a bite off of that. Look how that just how that changed the entire character. Warm against cool. Cool color against the end. Then you come back to highlight. Let's use the pastel to kind of just knock that in here. A little bit more hot spot over the top of the glass. And through along that shoulder, that fender shoulder. It's too bold. Come back in. Just use that rainbow pad. Just knock it off. Look at how that just kind of screams there, just subtle, but it works. So go back here. Let's try a little bit of this too. Let's go back into the rear quarter area. Add a little bit more hot spot back in through. We just kind of dust that in. Let's kind of do that. Not a problem. Again, great process here. Eraser brings it right back to surface. And I can take that scoop area, clean that up. Take that highlight back, get back to red paper. Look how that follows right through. All of a sudden, it's cool to hot, and it just works like gangbusters. Really interesting. I mean, I just love this process. I mean, you can cheat like mad, and I love that. I mean, don't get me wrong, cheating not in the sense that you're being deceptive, but there's such a I can't put it into words. There's just something magic about tone paper. Tone paper to me really forces you to think about lights and darks. And again, you're right, Nemo. It's not a drawing process. It's much more emotional. What do you want to get out of the content you're dealing with? Are you going to fill it all in? Do you want to leave it something mysterious? Yeah, let's leave it mysterious. Let's get that front fender in place. Let's draw back into this thing just for a second. Hot spot over the wheel. Again, I'm not even going to define where those wheels are. I'm going to just let that thing right through here. Come back in a little bit of hot spot over the wheel or the lamp themselves, and come back in with just a little bit of reverse light in through here, where the back of this little sponsor is here, and then right in through here, a little bit of return on that scoop. Look how that just changes the entire dynamic of that form. I hope this is helping, gang. I mean, it's just a lot of fun, lots and lots of fun. Let's go back in there, just kind of fill in the blanks just a bit more. Let's put a little more of this in place. Just kind of bring this in, blend it, bring this in. Oh, pardon, let's go to black. Let's bring this in. Blend a little bit more fullness in here, and then a little bit more in here, and again a little bit more in here. And again, up on top where it's the darkest in shadow, just kind of knock that highlight right out of there. And again, same thing in through here. Much more sinister looking kind of wheel pattern here. And if it feels comfortable to come back in and say, you know, I lost a bit of the hot spot, that's fine. Bring it back, and just be real animated with it. Bring it back. Bring it back. Again, same thing in the rear. Pencil, just sketching right back in. Bring it all back. And last but not least, a little bit of that in return. And just enough here, there's a little bit of a tail lamp graphic here. Let's try to put this in place. There's one of those and one of those. Just kind of let them float out there in space. There you go, gang. How about that? There's phase number 2. Just being really lucid with this guy. And let's see if we've got any questions for need to answer. Gives it so much dimension. Makes it look great. Let's see. Wow, gorgeous. Thank you, Russia. Very true, Nemo. It's coming. Yeah, that's a great point, Nemo. That's right. You don't have to. I've always said this. A good sketch should leave a lot to the imagination. These sketches, as poorly as they're done, beginning to leave hopefully enough to the imagination where not everything's filled in. There's enough line work here to kind of make it all come together. There's enough tone going through it to kind of give it some substance. In a case like this, much more emotional. So emotional it's scary. I mean, that allows you to go back in and make decisions based on what you're seeing here. So let me clean up here a little bit, put this out of the way. So thank you very much for the commentary. It's well said. Let's kind of get rid of that. Go through here. Let's kind of clean this mess up a bit. Now let's come back in through here and let's finish something up here. Let's come back in and do a little elevation study. Oop, you with me? Get this thing grounded. Hey, Jad, thank you very much for subscribing. I really appreciate you coming on board here. Hey, Belton Black, wow, thank you very much, gang. That is absolutely amazing to me. Thank you so much. Wow. Chip 7, wow. I cannot believe it. Thank you so much, guys. That really means an awful lot. My goodness. Jeez, Carrot F just subscribed. My goodness. I don't know what to say other than sincere thank you. I mean, this is overwhelming to me. This is Fine Line Designs. Hey, Fine Line is here. Fine Line, if you're listening to me, please. I try to get in touch with you. About a couple of sessions ago, and I was looking forward to getting your work. So Fine Line, if you're out there, please drop me a note at my email address at jim@drcontrast.com so I can get to take a peek, take a look at your work and give you some hope, some insight. You asked me some time ago to maybe do that, and maybe I missed something. So if I did, I apologize, Fine Line. So please, once again, contact me at jim@drcontrast.com, and we'll try to get some things resolved for you, address some questions for you. And to all of you, I'm stunned. Thank you so much for just the kindness of coming in and subscribing. It means an awful lot, gang. And I want to be of service to you. This stuff is being done not to be just a wrist here, guys. I want to make sure when we go through every stream on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it makes a difference for you. I said this on Monday, and I'll say it again. You are the individuals that make this thing work. You have the talent. You have the gift. My job is to maybe help you magnify that gift and bring it full circle so you can really make a huge difference in your career. And that's my goal, and I sincerely state that. So thank you very much, gang. Really appreciate it. So back to this mundane, all of a sudden, this little mundane sketch here. Just going to do the same thing. Keep it real emotional. I'm not going to really get a lot of stuff in here. I'm just going to go back and tone this in. Let's get a little bit more of this in place. Let's kind of bring this on through. Let's put a bit of tone in this beauty. Get the core lines down. And I'm going to make a comment about that in just a moment here once I get this started here. Get the core lines down. There's an element, there's a certain secret to this, and then once you find it, it just takes care of itself. We're going to tone these surfaces in. Stay around the wheels for a reason. Back a little bit of reflected light down on this thing. Bring it that scallop. And then take it out of that scallop. Just bring it right through. Or the top of the fender peak. Just enough information there to kind of bring me back into that shape. Let that go. Notice, really emotional. I mean, I'm not worried about being perfect here, gang. Let's get the nose cap in place here. Just to lay in the graphics. And again, back through here. Let's take that little design line right through. Look how that pattern. Oops, pardon me here, gang. Look how that pattern starting to set that shape up. without very little, I mean, keeping it mysterious. I think that's one of the great things about this whole process, keeping it all mysterious. Let's go back and use that same wheel trick again, so we kind of keep it nice and ethereal and not spoil the mood of the sketch itself. Let's go back here. Pardon me if I find this the right one. Here we are. Come back in and just do this. Let's get those wheels in place. Without illustrating them, let's kind of fill them in. Weebro pad, just kind of nail them in there, a little bit of tone change. Your greatest friend has come back into a little bit of eraser, get that thing back to normal. There it is. And again, back in through here, back to normal. You get rid of all the fuss. Pretty cool. Keeping it nice and simple. Right away, you're set up that whole axis ready to go here. A little more shadow up on top here. Let's kind of do this like we did with the last one. Let's come back in and where the light source is, a little bit of that pastel in place. Kind of fuzz that in. Let that fall just right there. Again, same thing here. Let's get that into place. Let's move that in place here. Let's get a little bit more of that up on top. Move that out just a bit more. Blend it in. Come underneath a little bit more of that change of pace. And a little bit of that and that change of pace. Right away, look how the graphics are starting to set that thing up. Now, neat little thing here is just go back in. Got a little bit of sky. Now, let's say the light source in the front. Let's kind of put this into place here across that fender blister and across that upper. Nice little trick here to take that same pad, knock off the sky. There it is. Look at how that just really, all of a sudden just begins to glow. I don't know what it is. I can't find the right term. But at any rate, it starts to do that, hopefully. Now let's do this. Nice thing about this rendering technique is right back to paper. You can save it. Into the hotspot. Let's bring this into play here. Let's tone this underneath here. And I'll go through a whole series of these things. I'll change technique often. I'll go very ethereal, I'll go very final, I'll show you one at the end here when we finish up the stream here today, how this whole thing. Let's put a little bit of hot spot in this thing now. Go back and put a little bit of highlight. It's coming from there. Let's take that back into the cowl. And this little tail spots in here. Into the top over that. Into that. And again, there's a little bit of this in. Let's kind of walk that through. Let's get into that split line. Let's take that split line right through that guy. Now let's use the eraser and get that highlight back. Back in through here. More highlight. Walk that back. A bit of a marker in this thing. Bit of shadow down. And build up a little bit of the intensity. Bit of shadow in here. A bit more hot spot. Let's bring it up a little more. What we lost, let's kind of redraw it back in there. A bit more tone back into here, and let's kind of get this guy lined up here. It's a splitter in place. What do you think, gang? Come along all right? There you are. It's starting to put some character here. Let me see what we got here. Put that aside. A little more hot spot in this thing. Let's get a little more animated with this guy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, guys, we're talking about emotion here. The whole thing is emotional. I mean, the whole idea of just coming together with this, it's emotion. This stuff is so emotional, it's not even funny to me. I think it's just absolutely, it's an incredible time to work with, and it's great to see it all come together. But let's put a little more sky in this thing. But the emotion to me, in anything I do, I just really have to put my heart and soul into it, and making sure that this thing begins to, not only, it's just not a sketch, it actually lives. It's got some character to it. Makes a huge difference here, folks. Let's kind of do this with that in place. So more hot spot in through here, a little more of that line work in place, where that's going to catch most of the light around that real circle area here. Let's do this. There, get that hot spot over the top of that thing. A bit more of this, and let's just do this a little bit more glass too. Just a touch in the glass, and right away, man, that's fun, okay? I'm sorry, that is just fun. Let's kind of outline this beauty just a bit, not outline it, but just kind of highlight it just a touch. Where that canopy is. And a little definition line. Now that's a bit too strong. Let's kind of pull it back just a bit, tone it through. But it just gives you enough of an end. Oops, pardon me here, missed the rearview mirror. A bit of hot spot. Let's kind of clean this up just a bit more. Take it back. There you go. That's a lot stronger. I don't know, gang, what you think, but that's just a lot of fun. I mean, I can't stress enough how. When I came in today's stream, what I wanted to accomplish was for all of you how really critical it is to just get really emotional with it. Let's kind of move this stuff out of the way here for a second. Give ourselves just a peek look at this thing. How about that? Everybody all right? Just I mean, if you look at those sketches, what I want to really focus on it, notice there's nothing there, but everything's there. It's like Nemo said earlier, really well stated. There's a lot of area that you can read into. There's a lot of mystery in it. And I think that's where the real secret is, getting the mystery of this stuff to read for us. It doesn't have to be all tightened down and all, I think the more I look at it this way, the more you finish a sketch that's so stiff and rigid, the less character it has. I mean, have you ever done something where you draw something and it takes hours to do, and you put up on the wall and you go, holy cow, that doesn't say anything. And again, I'm not being critical here. But if you leave it open and you keep it mysterious, a very gesturally sketch, and really kind of move through it very wickedly, all of a sudden it takes on its own personality. It really begins to talk back to you. And I think that's what we're after here. Talking back to us. Do this, don't do that, try this, try that, experimental stuff. Just opening the whole floodgates of being really real with this stuff is really neat. So I'm going to try something here. I'll show you a little trick here to put the background stuff in. And it's going to look like this. I'll take this beauty and this piece of tape. Pardon me, let me bring this down just a touch. I'll put that piece of tape in place right there. And put a little bit of background in here. Take that guy and get my tape here. And do this. And I'm going to show you how to kind of put a little bit of enhancement. There it is. We're going to set this thing up to kind of frame it and do an illustration piece of this thing. So are you ready? Here we go, gang. Go right back to this pastel approach. Add a little bit of this. Come back and get this guy. And just to dust in a little bit of background vignette to kind of really kind of put this thing all together here. A little more emotional. Come back in through here, get a little more of that in here. Just kind of fire that right through the entire composition. And every now and then, add a little bit of tone to it. Change its pace just a touch. A little bit of that sky into play here. Bring that in through it. And if you don't get enough impact in this thing, just try this. Go to handcrafted stuff. Just kind of lay in some stuff here. And the nice thing about that is you can go back in, take this beauty, and soften it. Instead of a lot of jump in this thing, let's go back in through here. No emotional. Just keep that thing really tied in. Here's a nice thing about this too. While you go through that whole process, you can now do this. And right back to this tail canard on this last study we did, and just bring it right back to paper. And then run it right through the composition. Let's get rid of that for a second. Now let's do this. Let's take that and be a little more electric with it. And take that through. All of a sudden, look at that. Isn't that fun? Use of different mixed medias materials, amazing. It's just fun stuff here, guys. Let me do this. Let's get a little more impact back here in the corner. Let's do this, and then we'll move along here. Put more of this in here. A little bit more emotion. Let's kind of blend that in. A little stronger back in through here. Maybe something right behind the cover on Ponte. Into this. A little more strength. Blend that in just a touch. Get rid of that. Now, what we lost here, don't forget, no problem. Come right back in with that eraser. And you're lost. You bring it right back up again. I can put a hot spot right back in there. And begin to modify. Go back through here. Erase that out. And right down the body side, a little bit of hot spot. Let's kind of get that out of the way. Thank you for your patience here again. Let's see what we've got here. There's the frame. And there is the excess. Let's get rid of that. Now we just tied the whole composition together. That is print worthy, gentlemen. How cool is that? And that is a lot of fun. So let's do this. Let's get rid of this, some of the verticals in here. Take that out of the way. Again, that same process down here, just a touch through the Ponte. All of a sudden, there you are, guys. That is as direct as it gets. Is that fun or what? Let's see. Gesticulates in Italian. That's pretty cool. Let's do this just for what it's worth. A little bit more definitive here, so we don't leave anybody out of the dust. There we are. That little sponsor comes back and comes back with the top of that. Let's lose that. Put more hot spot in through here. And again, rearview mirror. Over the top, just a touch more on the front end graphic here, and just enough to sneak it in. There you are, guys. There's phase number one. Boy, I can't believe I've gone an hour already. That didn't mean to take this much time. I hope this has been rewarding for you to kind of hang on here and take a look at some of these sketches we're dealing with here. Just a lot of fun. Let me get that centered over here just for a second. Captain Nemo, thank you very much. Hey, by the way, Captain Nemo, just make the announcement. I just spoke to my IT guy last night, and I think the website is up and running. So hopefully, to all of you, for example, please take a moment when we're done here today. Take a look at my website. It's drcontrast.com. All of you who are following me today, please take a peek at that thing. I think you'll find some more drawing lessons available here and be of some interest to you. My hands are an absolute mess, gang. So give me I'm going to take about a 2-minute break, and I'm going to clean my hands up here. And I've got another sketch I want to show you. Just a raw sketch to work with. Pardon me, just a moment. All right, gang, I'm back. Thanks for your patience here. Let's see, Pixelate, what are you saying here? Chalk break. That's exactly right. A chalk break is well deserved here. Let me just go back here. Let's get rid of this guy. And before I do, let me just do one thing here and get this all set up. Make sure I'm the guilty party. So there's phase number one. Now that just, I mean, to me, it's an awful lot of fun, guys. Let me get this up on the screen here so we can kind of see it there. Is that better? So again, the lesson and recap here, the lesson today was to take a look at these materials from the point of view of being very emotional and working with the mixed media, such as getting the marker and getting the pastel, and how they work together, and how this tone paper becomes a great medium to work with, because it already sets the middle ground for you. We're already there. All we're doing is going north, which is highlight, and south, which is shadow, into highlight and into shadow. And you use the marker to just tone the paper itself, and it's a great process here. Not having to brush off. Yeah, that's a great. I have to tell that story sometime, Pixel, about having to dust off my my pencil shavings on the on the Cintiq I was working with. Let's see, Shadowka was this the YouTube. Yeah, there you go. Super. There it is. We'll get this link end up. That's the Docs YouTube. Hey, very good. Let me do this. I just want to take a moment here in closing. I want to show you a couple of things here. I did this little rough sketch here to begin with here. I want to go back and show you how this lucid thing works, just in drawing format here. So bear with me here, gang, and we'll wrap it up real quickly. I did a little study here, but like an advanced GT series for Ferrari. So let's kind of walk this in. Let's do this. Show you how this sketch begins to function. Open this up. Walk around it, come back in and pick up some really interesting little detail work. Just real quick, just a lot of character, just laying in some surfaces. Come back in and get that far side fender in place. Notice how loose that is. See how loose that is? Just really loose. So all of a sudden, come back in here. Let's do this. Let's leave it alone. Let's ground it first. Let's kind of move this very quickly. I don't want to bore you here. Let's get the shadow down here. A little bit of this. Show a little combination here of just a real ragged sketch and playing up on the fact that we've got a lot more spontaneity to work with here. Just kind of put that tire in place, kind of imply where that is. Come back across the shadow, ground it, which I think is always a great idea to ground this beauty so it doesn't begin to float on the page itself. There it is. That's that. Bring into this. Come out of that with just a little bit of this. Come out of this. And shadow. Interesting thing about shadows too. Sometimes they're very critical when you ground something, for example. I always like to get into that habit because that shadow gives us an indication of what the form is actually doing. Just interesting. So here we go. It can be an indication of what the shape is doing. Put the splitter in place. I'll try and keep this one real minimal. Again, this will be more like a Lusso of some sort. An advanced study of a Lusso 250 GT. What it might look like in this modern generation. A little bit of the grill snoot coming forward to the wheels. A little bit of a vacuole here. We're going to ink that in a minute. Get this pattern set. There's a little bit of an intake. It's laying in some really fast graphics here, gang. And we'll put some real heat to it. The body section in the glass. Graphics. That's high contrast. Notice I'm going south now to get the pattern set. in the shadow, just going downhill. Carson, Carolina, how are you, man? Good to see you. Ferrari, I'm in. I'll review those things in a minute here, Carson. I just finished up a sketch here. Now, getting in the glass in the cockpit area. Let's just ink that in. A little bit of paper, stain that in. Just get the graphics. Let's get the pattern set first. Then we'll kind of focus in on getting some of the details out of it. Hey, Carson, how are you? Thank you so much for doing that. That's, boy, I can't believe it. I'm amazed here, gang. Thank you so much. Really grateful for the fact that you guys are tuning in here and watching this old man kind of crank at it here. So basically laying in a pattern. Now let's put some heat to this thing. Let's put a little bit of marker to it like we've done earlier. And I don't know if I've got, yeah, there it is. There's 39 red, a real deep scarlet. Let's go back in here and begin to get the pattern set. Let's get this in, let's get this extractor lined up here. It's a little bit more complicated. Let's kind of lay that in. Lay that in, a little bit of tone change in that front end shell. Another little loop there. Tone that in place. Again, a little far side fender reflection. While we got that marker out, let's let it work for us. Now let's go back in through here into the body side. That's the deck. A little bit of graphics in the glass. Let's kind of take that through. Hey, Carson, how are you, man? Thank you so much. Let's kind of get this the body side in place here. Let's stain this in. Get that wheel flare to work back there. Kind of ink that in a little bit, kind of separate the shapes. Let's tone this in. Take a little bit of time here, guys, so thank you for being patient. Just working some of the patterns out. What do you think, gang? Coming together? There it is. Let's see. I wish I had 1/10 of this art talent. You do. You just have to keep working at it here, man. You just have to keep. Let's do this. Let's kind of put a little suspense to this thing now. Let's kind of tone back just a bit. Let's add some real high contrast here. Let's get this into place, and I want to keep this real fluid here. Almost there. A bit of glass graphics. Pardon my silencer again. I'm just trying to move along here quickly to not bore you. Get this thing moving. There you go, graphics. How much I laid in now? Interesting, huh? Really interesting. Let's see what question here. Yeah, there we go. Now let's go back in and do a little bit of this. Let's come back in and get some of these wheels in place now. And kind of bring it up into full circle here. Without putting anything in there, just kind of tone that in. Wheel pad, wheel. Just enough indication back there, gang, that we're dealing with this thing. Using a Weebro pad, just going to knock in some of the surfaces. Again, come back to that black marker, or pardon me, black pastel, a little bit of tone in this thing, and blend it in. And again, back here, just a little bit of that. Knock that in place. A little more impact in the intake place area there. A little deeper. Same thing over the front end. A bit of pastel to kind of take down the darks a little deeper. And a little bit more in the glass. And while we're there, let's kind of get that all lined up by doing the following. Let's get the glass out of the way by doing this. There it is. There's a canopy starting to come together here. Okay. Towed in, yeah, actually, Doctor, how did you get the front wheel to look accurate with the perspective system? Well, I'll tell you what, that we just turned that. All we do is just take that same face of the cube there, pixel, and just rotate it enough to kind of give it some impact and to change the character of the view here. So I'll get into more than some lesson stuff here as we go down the line. This time we go back to this, and let's do this. Let's kind of clean up this area here. Get this wheel to kind of read a little bit better for us. That, into that. Oops, let's kind of push that a little bit further. Get some of this cleaned up. And let's go back in here with some of this. Let's get that little nacelle up front here to start to work for us. We're going to put a highlight on this guy. Just really putting a lot of configuration. All of a sudden, that intake started to come together. Same thing up on top here. Just a little bit of this. Let's get a little bit of this. Let's get some of the lens graphic, the actual lighting system itself. There he is. All of a sudden, started to creep in there, gang. So let's go back in through here. Let's put a little more tone in this body side, just to give it a little bit of character. And we're almost there. Same thing here. A bit of scoop action. Let's get that to read. on that trailing edge. That comes into play. Take that eraser, clean it up a little bit. And let's kind of draw back in here just for a little bit more. Let's kind of take this guy, let's get this cleaned up just a bit more. A little bit of hot spot in this. Let's get back to paper, right in through there. That neat little trick. All of a sudden, the front end's starting to come together. See it, gang, or not? So far, so good. Let's kind of take this and let's go back in and get a little bit of the sky tone. This is what makes it really dramatic how the sky starts to work here for us. So we can kind of take this thing and right from the get-go, look how that begins to change the character of that whole shape. All of a sudden, make sense? Whoa, fun stuff. A little more of it. A little bit of sky down through here. More on top, just a little bit back over the top of that. Now, let's go back in and get that eraser to work for us. And right back to normal surface. Look how that scallops right back in there. This, let that rocker go as is, and kind of bring that into play. Factor that out. Get this highlight to work up on top here for us. Right back to paper. Back inside that scoop. And without doing an awful lot, gang, this thing really starts to sing, I hope. And let's kind of clean up a little bit, see what we've got here. Now, let's go spend a little time here. Oops. Let's get this squared away. More definition. A bit more definition. Lost my, oh, there it is. There we go, we're coming together here, gang. Bob, Bob Ross. Don't I wish? Anyhow, here we go again. Let's put a little bit of spots. Let's put a little bit of drawing definition in this thing now. Ooh, almost there. Again, sorry for the silence here, gang. Just trying to put some things together here. Oh, I don't like that right there. That's kind of out of character. Hang on just a moment. Not good. Let's get rid of that and just do this. That's better. Just a bit of backdrop. And we're almost there, gang. And just kind of cheat the view a little bit. There it is. Boy, you guys have been really patient here. There's the finale product. What do you think, gang? Come together all right? Hope I made sense here. When engineering takes on the intelligence of fun boy and that. There you go. I dug that old school F1 vibe. There you go. On the front end. Yeah, that's an old F1 Formula One girl. You're right there. No question about that, gang. Let me do this. I'm gonna make a note here and promissory note here today. I really went very quickly with some of this stuff, so I'm going to go back in and maybe fine-tune these sketches and show you a little bit of progress work when we come back together on Friday. But this is, again, the whole reason for the stream of the day was just, I love the line. Yeah, me too. It's fun stuff. So what I want to really get across here, the reason for the stream today, pardon me for losing my thought here, gang, was to really show you to begin with a lucid sketch. It doesn't have to be perfect. You use a pastel and the marker to just fill in the blanks in terms of negative and positive space. Nothing really elaborate here. Nothing's really outlined. There's a lot of emotion, and I think Nemo said it earlier. The whole idea is just getting used to the fact that the paper becomes a middle ground, marker provides the base, and then highlight and shadow, you work from there. And that's a question from it looks great. Any specific choice on the blue versus another color to find the body? Yeah, I think the reason for the blue pixel is very simple. It's that contrast between warm and cool. You've got a red machine and a lot of blue sky to kind of counteract the fact that sky is reflecting back into the surface itself. We'll go through some of the lesson plans later on here. I will definitely spend some time talking about those things here. So let me do this for a moment here. We'll kind of wrap things up. And if you have any more questions, feel free to fire away here. And again, I can't thank you enough for being patient with me here today. Lots of stuff. Lots of things going on here, but hopefully we got some good information for you to work with. Let's put a little sketch back in place. I'm going to tune in this little sketch. Both these guys will go and be a little tighter with them. And I'm really entertaining the fact about putting this stuff into some print format for publication and maybe for sale later on. I mean, I've got an inventory of stuff here that will choke a horse, gang. It's absolutely scary. So let me know if that's even possible for those of you who might be interested in any way, shape, or form. Let me do this here, get some of that out of the way. Just there you go, that's better. This is where we started. Those of you who came in a little bit late, and this is where we all began here with just a series of real lucid sketches, looking at there's a variety of like the old 250 GT, then into maybe a contemporary version of a 488 or 450 plus, and then into another just an ethereal two-place coupe that might be Ferrari inspired. Just forum studies itself. Carolina, and send your address. Yeah, please do, Carson, because we've got that print for you, that auto union print. So this is where we started. We went into a series of real lucid sketches with pencil, went ahead with it all, then we went back and moved into this guy, which is a little more ethereal. It's a little bit more of a real, lack of a better term, very ethereal, loose sketch in terms of putting together some of the information we have here. Then let's do this, make sure I'm guilty. And there it is. So that was the second pass at it. Just started with a real rough sketch and slowly used the marker and the pastel to kind of fill in the body forms. We're going to give a little speed to it. So excellent. You had me at any Alpha Romeo. Very cool to see a road-borne bullet there. Very good. So I'm going to show you this too. I've been working on this, and I'm trying to add this to the inventory. This is a piece. This is what I call a rendering. These are emotional sketches. What you just saw today are emotional sketches. Here's a finished piece of a 908 Porsche GT Le Mans. I just want to finish this up. We're going to take some of these lesson plans into this kind of character, into some final rendering work. This is the same process on a tone paper. In this case, it's a Porsche. Who was that for? That's for the library. I'm adding, for example, Shadow. If we get to the place where we start putting on a web store for Dr. Contrast, this will be part of the inventory we're working with. I'm working behind the scenes to do some really neat rendering work for us to put on the site for purchase. Now, what I've got to add yet is a Porsche logo, but this is a 908 study. Very quick, same process, pastel and marker. Letting the paper come through and just adding tone on top and then adding high contrast. Again, remember, the lesson today, how to work with a loose sketch, and then how to take that sketch and go from a very placid, dark into the shadows, get the contrast down, then work up into highlight, and let the paper become the middle ground. I decided to let you seek that in. these renderings are going to go to that level. I'm going to tune on this guy a little bit for maybe Friday and go from there. So in closing here, folks, I cannot thank you enough. I'm overwhelmed at the number of subscriptions that came in today, and you don't know how grateful I am. If you see something here you like today, please pass the information on to your friends. I really want to build my repertoire as far as followers are concerned. I'm grateful for every one of you. You've been an absolute inspiration to me, and I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to be with me today. It means everything. It's so much fun to be able to just put down information and get some feedback from each one of you in the audience, so to speak, or the followers. So let's concentrate on that, gang. And I want to thank you again. And I always close with this. Please always remember to never forget to dare to be great. And please, if you have a moment, especially for Captain Nemo, I think the website is up and running. And those of you who are interested in drawing skills, from like the beginner side of certain things, please take a look at my website at drcontrast.com. And if you have any questions or things you want me to work on, feel free to drop me a note at my email address at jim@drcontrast.com. I've had some feedback already from some of you guys. We're going into lessons on Monday. That'll be a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to going into maybe phase 2 on one-point perspective, with just very fundamental stuff. So let me close with this. Hope you have a great day. Again, so appreciative of the subscriptions today. Certainly don't merit it, and I want to thank you for the time spent to take the time to work with, to watch this guy go through it. And I hope you learn some things. I know I have. Every time I go through this, it's a complete mystery. I'm learning something. Every time I go through it, I'm learning something new, and I hope you are as well. I want you to take care of yourself. Have a great day. And once again, thank you very much. And don't forget to ever remember to dare to be great. All the very best. Take care, gang. Thank you.